This is the Bible Book Club. I'm Heather.
And I'm Susan.
And we're in the book of 1 Kings. Welcome to the club. In our last episode, we began the journey through the list of kings that reigned over the northern and the southern kingdoms. If you would like to keep track of all the kings in Judah and Israel, we do have a very good chart of the good and evil kings in the show notes. So go there and check that out. It is really helpful, especially if you are a visual person like me. It helps you lay it all out. But in chapter 13, Jeroboam is king over Israel, but he's not doing a great job. So the Lord sends a man of God to warn him in front of everyone while he is sacrificing on the altar he had made to the gods he had introduced to Israel.
Which he wasn't supposed to do.
Which he wasn't supposed to be doing. Only priests could offer sacrifices, not kings. His hand shrivels up and the altar splits in two, but it has no effect on Jeroboam. He goes down as the most evil king to date. Then there was this kind of strange story about the poor man of God who gets tricked by an old prophet into staying in the area. And as a result, he dies. And the old prophet feels bad and buries the man of God in his own tomb. Then we also read chapter 14, where years later, King Jeroboam's son is super sick. And he tries to trick the prophet Abijah into telling his wife if he will die. Well, Abijah is not fooled and gives Jeroboam bad news about his son, his entire family, not just the son, and his dynasty, because Jeroboam has done more evil than anyone before him.
Exactly. So the title of this episode is Not All Kings Are Created Evil, and we are going to have one good king in here. So
not
hold
all,
on.
But a lot.
Not many, but we're going to get to one. All right. So Jeroboam was in the northern kingdom of Israel. So meanwhile, back in Judah, the southern kingdom is still under the reign of Solomon's son, Rehoboam. Scene 1, the death of Rehoboam, the first southern king.
Chapter 14, continuing in verse 21. Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was king in Judah. He was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel in which to put his name. His mother's name was Naamah. She was an Ammonite.
Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was also the son of an Ammonite woman. Now, this fact about his mother hints at evil in the works. Solomon sinned by marrying many foreign women. This woman, Naamah, gave birth to his first son. By announcing her here, the author is hinting at her potential influence because foreign wives worshipped foreign gods. A problem which we have already read about in other episodes that's going to escalate when those foreign wives pass their passion for foreign gods on to their children.
And that's why God told them not to marry foreign wives.
Exactly.
Verse 22, Judah did evil in the eyes of the Lord. By the sins they committed, they stirred up his jealous anger more than those who were before him had done. They also set up for themselves high places, sacred stones, and Asherah poles on every hill and under every spreading tree. There were even male shrine prostitutes in the land. The people engaged in all the detestable practices of the nations the Lord had driven out before the Israelites.
So this is really sad because we're in the southern kingdom. This is David's kingdom now. Rehoboam, too, did evil in the eyes of the Lord. As a result, all of Judah did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Like the northern kingdom, the evil centered on idol worship. High places with sacred stones and Asherah poles. Now, Asherah poles were usually made of wood and were set up to honor the Canaanite goddess Asherah. The poles symbolize fertility. On top of that, there were even male temple prostitutes to serve the worshipers at the shrines, because more sex with more people definitely encouraged fertility. And so Judah made God angry and jealous. His chosen people were being as detestable as the Canaanites, the very people that he had driven out of the land because of their sin, and now his chosen people are committing same sins. Scene 6, the Lord warns Judah.
Verse 25, in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem. He carried off the treasures of the temple of the Lord and the treasures of the royal palace. He took everything, including all the gold shields Solomon had made. So King Rehoboam made bronze shields to replace them and assigned these to the commanders of the guard on duty at the entrance to the royal palace. Whenever the king went to the Lord's temple, the guards bore the shields, and afterward they returned them to the guard room.
So Egypt attacks and makes off with all the gold. This is so symbolic. Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, grandson of David, lost the golden shine that reflected his father Solomon's glory to the world. Remember, it was all the gold. Remember, we read that chapter about all the gold. And this is what attracted everyone to Solomon, is just all that, the palace, everything was dripping in gold. It's all gone. Why has he lost it? Because the gold was no longer being used to reflect God's glory. And Rehoboam placed it with dull bronze. Yuck. Note, God did not use a Canaanite invasion as a warning to Judah. This was also symbolic. He used the Egyptians, which should have triggered their memory. God's choice was a blatant reminder of the slavery they left in Egypt and of the slavery they would return to if they didn't get it together and repent. God had warned them of this. You're going to end up back in slavery. And so by sending the Egyptians instead of a Canaanite invasion, God is kind of saying, hello, you want to go back? You want to go back? Remember?
Verse 29, as for the other events of Rehoboam's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? There was continual warfare between Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and Rehoboam rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. His mother's name was Naamah. She was an Ammonite, and Abijah, his son, succeeded him as king.
As a result of all this idolatry, Rehoboam has continuous warfare throughout his reign. He is buried with David, and his son Abijah succeeds him. Now, this is an Abijah, son of Rehoboam, not Abijah, the son of Jeroboam, who died in the last episode. Ironically, both kingdoms use the name Abijah, which means my father is God, but neither of their fathers, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, actually followed God.
Is that like another nod to idolatry? Like they think they're so great that they
I have no idea.
My father
or they're
God.
Just pretending. I don't know. All right, scene 3. 2 more kings of Judah in the southern kingdom. After Rehoboam dies, his son Abijah succeeds him. Now, Abijah is the 3rd generation after David. He is David's great-grandson. Chapter 15, Abijah, king of Judah, is a bad king.
In the 18th year of the reign of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, Abijah became king of Judah, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 years. His mother's name was Maacah, daughter of Abishalom. He committed all the sins his father had done before him. His heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his forefather had been. Nevertheless, for David's sake, the Lord his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem by raising up a son to succeed him and by making Jerusalem strong. For David had done what was right in the eyes of the Lord and had not failed to keep any of the Lord's commands all the days of his life, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam throughout Abijah's lifetime. As for the other events of Abijah's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam, and Abijah rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. And Asa, his son, succeeded him as king.
So Abijah takes over in the south while Jeroboam is still king in the north. Abijah was not a good king for Judah. His downfall was a heart condition. It was not devoted to God. His heart followed that of his father, Rehoboam, rather than his great-grandfather, David. He had a choice of whom to follow, and he chose badly. Now, despite his wrong choice, for David's sake, God does not take the throne from the line of David. God's faithfulness to his promise to David is the only reason Judah still has a place on the throne. Now, Abijah passes the crown to his son, and Asa, the new king of Judah, is a good king. Yay.
Finally, continuing in verse 9, in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, Asa became king of Judah, and he reigned in Jerusalem 41 years. His grandmother's name was Maacah, daughter of Abishalom. Asa did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as his father David had done. He expelled the male shrine prostitutes from the land and got rid of all the idols his ancestors had made. He even deposed his grandmother Maacah from her position as queen mother because she had made a repulsive image for the worship of Asherah. Asa cut it down and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Although he did not remove the high places, Asa's heart was fully committed to the Lord all his life. He brought into the temple of the Lord the silver and gold and the articles that he and his father had dedicated.
Now, don't be confused if it says that his father David had done. They often attributed grandfathers and great-grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers as fathers of all the people that came after them. We first saw this with Noah. Now, Asa is the first of 8 kings of Judah who do what is right in the eyes of the Lord. There's only going to be 8 kings in all the kings we cover. And fortunately for Judah, they had him as king for 41 years. He had a lot of time to do a lot of good, including he got rid of the shrine prostitutes and idols. He even deposed his own grandmother, Maacah, as queen mother. Now, the queen mother was the leading lady and took precedence over all the women in the harem, which gave her a lot of religious influence over all the wives. So it's really good that they got rid of her. Normally, the queen mother kept the position until she died, but Maacah made some repulsive idols to the god Asherah. We've already talked about this god. Asherah poles are mentioned a lot in the Old Testament. Now, Asherah was a goddess and wife of the Canaanite supreme god, El. Apparently, Asherah was the mother of 70 divine offspring, including another prominent Old Testament Canaanite god, Baal. We're going to hear a lot about him. So Asherah was associated with fertility and motherhood. She had lots of kids, and she's bad news. Asa took the Asherah poles and his grandmother Maacah down and removed them from Judah. Scene 4, the war between Asa, the king of Judah, and Baasha, king of Israel.
Verse 16, there was war between Asa and Baasha, king of Israel, throughout their reigns. Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and fortified Ramah to prevent anyone from leaving or entering the territory of Asa, king of Judah.
Okay, let me make a note here about this war. It's inserted here in the timeline because Asa was involved, but we're going to go back and cover Baasha, the king of Israel, really soon. So just know this it's inserted here, but we haven't covered the king of Baasha. So Ramah was strategic. It was only 5 miles north of Jerusalem, Judah's capital, the temple, and the palace of King Asa. And it was Judah's best access to the western coastal plain, which was big for trade. So Baasha was threateningly close and most likely also trying to cut off trade from Judah. But Asa has a plan.
Verse 18, Asa then took all the silver and gold that was left in the treasuries of the Lord's temple and of his own palace. He entrusted it to his officials and sent them to Ben-Hadad, son of Tabrimon, the son of Hezion, the king of Aram, who was ruling in Damascus. Let there be a treaty between me and you, he said, as there was between my father and your father. See, I am sending you a gift of silver and gold. Now break your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, so he will withdraw from me. Ben-Hadad agreed with King Asa and sent the commanders of his forces against the towns of Israel. He conquered Ijon, Dan, Abel Beth Maacah, and all Kinnereth in addition to Naphtali. When Baasha heard this, he stopped building in Ramah and withdrew to Tirzah. Then King Asa issued an order to all Judah. No one was exempt, and they carried away from Ramah the stones and timber Baasha had been using there. With them, King Asa built up Geba in Benjamin and also Mizpah.
So Asa's plan is to pay for a treaty with Ben-Hadad, and he sacrifices all the gold and silver he has left. Now, Ben-Hadad was a common name for Aramean kings. This Ben-Hadad, son of Tabrimon, was the current king of Aram and ruling in Damascus. Now, the treaty worked like this. Asa paid Ben-Hadad all the silver and gold in the Lord's temple to harass and attack Israel way in the north that bordered Aram. Now, Baasha could not defend both borders, Judah in the south and Aram in the north. And so he withdrew his push against Judah to focus on defending against Aram. Why did he do this? Because the Arameans and Damascus were a big deal. Now, we have a map of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah in the show notes, and on it, you can see why Damascus was so important. Damascus is the intersection of the two most important highways of the day. The highways are noted in red on the map. One highway is the International Coastal Highway, which was very long and went all the way from Egypt along the Mediterranean coast until it crossed over to Mesopotamia in the east. So it was super long. The other highway was the King's Highway, and it carried riches all the way from the south of Arabia directly north. Recall that David had once upon a time conquered Damascus and expanded Israel's territory in 2 Samuel 8. So Damascus used to be part of Israel. Listen to verse 5.
When the Arameans of Damascus came to help Hadadezer, king of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 of them. He put garrisons in the Aramean kingdom of Damascus, and the Arameans became subject to him and brought tribute.
Unfortunately, Solomon lost control of Damascus to Rezon in 1 Kings 11.
Verse 23, and God raised up against Solomon another adversary, Rezon, son of Eliada, who had fled from his master Hadadezer, king of Zobah. When David destroyed Zobah's army, Rezon gathered a band of men around him and became their leader. They went to Damascus, where they settled and took control. Rezon was Israel's adversary as long as Solomon lived, adding to the trouble caused by Hadad. So Rezon ruled in Aram and was hostile toward Israel. So can you help me? I'm getting confused, and I know that you just tried to show the background of how that all happened with David. But so we've got our Israel, the north and the south. Are these Canaanite kings?
So
that David was supposed to conquer and he didn't?
No, so he did. David
did.
had control of that whole, he expanded the territory of Israel way north. So he had control of Damascus. He actually had a garrison there. Solomon, remember, started sinning and lost control. He lost it to the King Rezon. So now we're in this situation where whatever control David and Solomon had over Damascus is gone. The division of Israel into the northern and southern kingdoms had weakened both kingdoms. Israel in the north has significantly diminished in size from what David had totally controlled, and the Arameans will be bitter enemies of Israel, the northern kingdom, until the Assyrians destroy both Aram and Israel in 2 Kings chapter 16 and 17, and the Assyrians carry them off. So what the author is showing us here in the story is, hey, David had this great empire. It was huge. And Damascus, at the intersection of these two important highways, will continue to be important for Israel well into the New Testament. Have you ever heard the phrase, all roads lead to Damascus? It comes from this. It has a double meaning. On the one hand, the phrase is a geographical description of the highways. Everything. This is a super important area. The Arameans have control of it now. And so it's further weakening their wealth. On the other hand, this phrase, all roads lead to Damascus, describes a sudden and radical change in someone due to an experience of some sort. This meaning comes from the New Testament. It comes from the radical conversion of the Apostle Paul on the road to Damascus in Acts 9. Paul tells of his conversion in Acts 22 and 26. Listen to his account of his conversion from a persecutor of Christ to a defender of Christ, which happened on the road to Damascus.
Acts 26, starting in verse 9, I too was convinced that I ought to do all that was possible to oppose the name of Jesus of Nazareth. And that is just what I did in Jerusalem. On the authority of the chief priests, I put many of the Lord's people in prison. And when they were put to death, I cast my vote against them. Many a time I went from one synagogue to another to have them punished. And I tried to force them to blaspheme. I was so obsessed with persecuting them that I even hunted them down in foreign cities. On one of those journeys, I was going to Damascus with the authority and commission of the chief priests. About noon, as I was on the road, I saw a light from heaven brighter than the sun blazing around me and my companions. We all fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. Then I asked, Who are you, Lord? I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, the Lord replied. Now get up and stand on your feet. I have appeared to you to appoint you as a servant and as a witness of what you have seen and will see of me. I will rescue you from your own people and from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them to open their eyes and turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who were sanctified by faith in me.
All right, so stay with me here and see if you can catch this Bible bender. On Paul's journey to Damascus, he went from a persecutor of Christ to a defender of Christ. He was so against Christ that this change was profound. The reality is that the knowledge of sin, a Savior, and the indwelling of the Holy Spirit should manifest in some kind of change in everyone. That's what Paul experienced. Now, on Israel's journey, they're moving away from Damascus. All roads lead to Damascus. God had given them this through David, but they are moving away from it. They lost control of it. They went from being a follower of God to a follower of idols. The point is, where are you in your road to Damascus story? Because all roads lead there. At some point, you're either on the road toward God or away from God. And second, if you've made it to Damascus, you've had this radical change like Paul, what road have you been on since? Because God sent Paul on many other journeys after that. Where is he sending you? To your family, to your friends, your neighbors, your community? For some, the journey is a short distance down the hall to a child's bedroom to read Bible stories every night. For others, it is a trip to the coffee shop with a friend. For some, it's a journey across oceans of distance and great sacrifice. Every journey is precious to the Lord and may lead others on their own personal journey to Damascus and another conversion. Unfortunately for Israel, they've made the wrong choice and they are not on the road to Damascus. All right, back to Asa, the king of Judah.
Now back to our story in chapter 15, verse 23. As for all the other events of Asa's reign, all his achievements, all he did, and the cities he built, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? In his old age, however, his feet became diseased. Then Asa rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of his father David. And Jehoshaphat, his son, succeeded him as king.
Asa's reign was a good one. I don't know why they gave us the detail about his diseased feet. It doesn't seem fair because he had a good, long 41-year reign, and his son Jehoshaphat succeeded him. Scene 5, 4 more kings of Israel. Now, all of these kings have several things in common. They all ruled in Israel during the time period that King Asa ruled in Judah. So during that same 41-year period.
So Asa was king a long time. The other guys were king only
They're going to change over. Yeah, one is 12 years, another one is 12 years. You'll see. But all 4 of these did evil in the eyes of the Lord. First, we have Nadab, king of Israel.
Verse 25, Nadab, son of Jeroboam, became king of Israel in the 2nd year of Asa, king of Judah. And he reigned over Israel 2 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, following the ways of his father and committing the same sin his father had caused Israel to commit. Baasha, son of Abijah, from the tribe of Issachar, plotted against him, and he struck him down at Gibbethon, a Philistine town, while Nadab and all Israel were besieging it. Baasha killed Nadab in the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, and succeeded him as king.
Now, note, this is not Ahijah the prophet, but another Ahijah who has a son named Baasha. Also, recall that Jeroboam is from the tribe of Ephraim. Baasha is from the tribe of Issachar. So the reign of the kings is moving around amongst tribes and not a dynasty like David's. In the south, all the kings come from one tribe, the tribe of Judah.
Verse 29, as soon as he began to reign, he killed Jeroboam's whole family. He did not leave Jeroboam anyone that breathed, but destroyed them all, according to the word of the Lord given through his servant Ahijah the Shilonite. This happened because of the sins Jeroboam had committed and had caused Israel to commit, and because he aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel. As for the other events of Nadab's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? There was war between Asa and Baasha, king of Israel, throughout their reigns.
Well, we knew this was going to happen to Jeroboam because Ahijah the prophet said so in our last episode in chapter 14. When Jeroboam sent his wife in disguise to Ahijah, she was told this.
In verse 10, I am going to bring disaster on the house of Jeroboam. I will cut off from Jeroboam every last male in Israel, slave or free. I will burn up the house of Jeroboam as one burns dung until it is all gone. Dogs will eat those belonging to Jeroboam who die in the city, and the birds will feed on those who die in the country. The Lord has spoken.
And so it happened. And now there is a new king from a new family in Israel in the north, Baasha, king of Israel.
Verse 33, in the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king of all Israel in Tirzah, and he reigned 24 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, following the ways of Jeroboam and committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. Chapter 16, Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, son of Hanani, concerning Baasha. I lifted you up from the dust and appointed you ruler over my people Israel. But you followed the ways of Jeroboam and caused my people Israel to sin and to arouse my anger by their sins. So I am about to wipe out Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like that of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Dogs will eat those belonging to Baasha who die in the city, and birds will feed on those who die in the country. As for the other events of Baasha's reign, what he did and his achievements, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Baasha rested with his ancestors and was buried in Tirzah. And Elah, his son, succeeded him as king. Moreover, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani, to Baasha and his house, because of all the evil he had done in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger by the things he did, becoming like the house of Jeroboam, and also because he destroyed it.
Baasha did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and he got a bad word from the Lord that was similar to Jeroboam's. He was going to die. His house was going to die. It sounded very violent. He reigned for 24 years, and his son Elah succeeded him. This is Elah, king of Israel.
Verse 8, in the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, Elah, son of Baasha, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Tirzah 2 years. Zimri, one of his officials who had command of half his chariots, plotted against him. Elah was in Tirzah at the time, getting drunk in the home of Arzah, the palace administrator at Tirzah. Zimri came in, struck him down, and killed him in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah. Then he succeeded him as king. As soon as he began to reign and was seated on the throne, he killed off Baasha's whole family. He did not spare a single male, whether relative or friend. So Zimri destroyed the whole family of Baasha in accordance with the word of the Lord spoken against Baasha through the prophet Jehu, because of all the sins Baasha and his son Elah had committed and had caused Israel to commit, so that they aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by their worthless idols. As for the other events of Elah's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel?
Elah's reign is cut very short, only 2 years. Zimri, one of Elah's commanders, murders him and takes over. Now, Elah dies and his family is killed with him because of all the sin he and his father Baasha had committed. The house of Baasha, which ended the house of Jeroboam, ends in the same way, with the whole family going down. Zimri, king of Israel.
Verse 15. In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, Zimri reigned in Tirzah 7 days. The army was encamped near Gibbethon, a Philistine town. When the Israelites in the camp heard that Zimri had plotted against the king and murdered him, they proclaimed Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel that very day there in the camp. Then Omri and all the Israelites with him withdrew from Gibbethon and laid siege to Tirzah. When Zimri saw that the city was taken, he went into the citadel of the royal palace and set the palace on fire around him. So he died because of the sins he had committed, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord, following the ways of Jeroboam, and committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. As for the other events of Zimri's reign and the rebellion he carried out, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel?
Zimri holds the record for the shortest reign. It was just 7 days. He was not a fan favorite with the Israelites, and they appointed Omri as king. Now, rather than facing torture from Omri, Zimri kills himself by fire. Suicide by fire does not seem like a reasonable escape from torture. Surely, this is a very painful way to take your life. But Zimri knows something about Omri that we do not know at this point in the story. He, Omri, was more evil than anyone before him. In the next episode, we will learn about this notorious King Omri and his dynasty, and why God sends one of the greatest prophets ever to try to save Israel from this king. Stay tuned for our first power prophet, because Elijah is on the way.
And just a reminder, there is a map of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah and all these kings. If you, like me, are having a hard time keeping track of them, I promise you I am sitting here with my little map and I'm checking it to make sure that I'm keeping it straight in my head. Don't do this if you're driving, but go check that out in the show notes because it will really help you keep track of all these kings. What's a club without friends? If you're enjoying the Bible Book Club, why don't you share it? And then you can say, Welcome to the club. New episodes drop every Monday, and get all episodes now on Amazon Music. As always, head over to susanme.com/Bible Book Club for show notes from today's episode. Bible Book Club is hosted by Susan Merrill and Heather Rubio, edited by Buck Buchanan, produced by Haley Mawat.